How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Hey, check this out, my friends. This week's guest has been an artistic director with a couple different companies, multi-NAHA winner. She's been an editorial stylist, and catch this one, I love this, celebrity stylist to Mariah Carey, Lindsay Lohan, Sheryl Crow, Claire Danes, Gina Davis, just to name a few. She shot with one of the most famous photographers that I can even think of, Annie Leibovitz. She has been on the runway and done New York Fashion Week. She's done covers for numerous magazines. And this week's guest is probably one of my dearest friends and someone that I admire for her amazing eye. She's got an amazing set of hands, phenomenal taste, and she's one of the most creative people that I know. It is the legend and the icon, Ms. Ruth Roche. So let's get into this week's Headcase. I'm super excited here because I have to tell you this, is that, I think that any time for great artists or to have a level of greatness to any artist that we see on stage, etc., it requires really what I call four things. You have to have a great eye. You have to have a good set of hands. You have to have taste in what you can do. I don't mean taste as in the gustatory one, but taste is in fashion. And then also is an incredible amount of creativity. And I always think that there's so many artists that are out there, so many people that are on stage, etc., and they have one, they have two, they might even have three. But there's so few people that have all four. And Ruth, I so admire you, and I'm humbled to have you on Headcases just because you're one of the few people that I see that has all four of those things. You've got a great eye for seeing what's good on stage, on a head of hair, on a picture, etc. You have an incredible set of hands. You're creative as anybody that I know, and you've got impeccable taste. So I just want to say welcome. It's great to have you on board. Thank you for being a part of Headcases.
Thank you for having me. And that means a lot to me, what you just said, because I feel the same about you. So Thank you for saying all those nice things about me.
Well, we've got the Chip and Dale thing.
No, I insist. You go first. No.
I insist. After you. Listen, Ruth. I don't know if anybody out there who wouldn't know who you are, but it's the same way that we have people from different tribes and so on, and they're going to be watching this, and they may not know exactly who you are. And I know in the intro we talked about everything that you've done, etc. But you've done all of these amazing things with, award winner, multi-NAHA award winner, cover of magazines, etc. But that's what everybody sees at the beginning. Where was your start? Like, was there what got you into hair? Was there I woke up one morning and said, I'm going to be a hair. I wanted it all my life. Was there something somewhere else? A little birdie told me somewhere down the line that architecture was involved at one time, was there?
Yeah. Oh, mechanical engineer. I was going to be a mechanical engineer. And I
never finished grade 12, so I didn't know the difference between the two.
Well, I don't either, because I didn't make it to get my degree because that's all I wanted to do was hair. I was doing it in the dorms. I started in high school. For some reason, I can't remember why, but I started cutting my brother's hair, two of them. And
two brothers or two hair?
Each brother had two hairs. No, they just, they didn't want to pay for their haircuts. So that's probably why they were doing it. And, I also cut my own hair and permed my own hair and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So, but when I went to college, we used to go to this place we weren't even old enough to drink, called Hairy Gorilla's Cafe. And it was this place where the people that were old enough would go and get like pitchers of beer and sit around and drink it and all that. And we would get pictures of Tab, That's how long ago it was. Tab is like, diet drink. And it tasted horrible.
Uh-huh.
And then I would go into the restroom and wash my hands, and the smell of the soap in the restroom made me want to be in a salon. I can't explain it.
Really?
It was like I could picture myself. I think it smelled like the shampoo that my hairdresser used on my hair.
Oh, really?
I don't know, but it was like it was a smell thing that would trigger it. And I get goosebumps still thinking about it. I was just like, I got to do hair. I mean, I was doing everybody's hair in the dorm for like a 6-pack and, bottle of Bacardi or whatever it was. But I just wanted to do it so bad. And then that's what's, it just kind of kept eating at me. And I was in Santa Barbara. I was going to UCSB, and I was going to go to Bial Sassoon School. But there was a 1.5-year waiting list,
really?
The LA school.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait that long. I was like, I'm not waiting. I'm not going to go to college and waste more time, doing something I don't want to do. So to my parents' dismay, I said I wanted to drop out, and I ended up going to school there in Santa Barbara and went to a local school. And so I was in college. I did like a year in summer school to try to get my GPA up to something respectable.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. But luckily, my career worked out okay, so I didn't have to go back to school.
I want to go back. What did so here we are. You're in mechanical engineering. You're in, every parent's dream of your kids going to college, and then you came home and you said, "Hey, guess what, Mom? I want to be a hairdresser." You said that much to their dismay, but what was the reaction?
They were like, "Please don't do this. Finish college, and then if you still want to do hair, but you'll always have your degree to fall back on." And my sister, who is 14 years older than me, I was living in Santa Barbara and my parents were in Northern California, and my sister. And I was talking to them and I started arguing with them, and then I hung up on them. And because I was so passionate about it. And my sister calls me back. She goes, "Don't ever hang up on Mom and Dad." And I called back and I was like, "I'm sorry. I just want to do this so bad. I know that I want to do this." So they came around, but now of course my mom's not around anymore, but my dad's super proud of me. And,
yeah. I think that resonates with so many of us out there because, some people, unless you were like me and your mom was a hairdresser, so she was elated because she knew he had a laborer involved. But most parents, they always think of our industry as some place where you're not going to earn a lot of money. And, and I think that the sooner that we can change that culture where, there's so much money to be made within this industry if people would just put themselves to the task of earning it, So, I'm sure that's why they're just pleased as punch now, because I'll bet, I'm just going to take a wild stab, that your tax returns now are probably a whole lot higher than what they would have been if you would have been a mechanical engineer or an architect, But
yes.
Yeah. So
at one point, all my brothers are engineers, and I was like,
I'll show you my tax return if you show me yours.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. So, along the way, so I want to go back to, everybody sees Ruth on stage, and they kind of see you as this icon, which you are. I mean, nobody can do that many wins with NAHA, be around for that long, be artistic directors for companies, have input for manufacturers for guiding them into education and products and so on, and not be an icon in our industry. So, but what was it like? I want to go back to the beginning. So let's run back to, let's just say you finished your schooling, you got out. Like, what happened as soon as you got out of school? What happened there?
I went to the best salon in Santa Barbara at the time and applied to be in their apprenticeship program.
Uh-huh.
So I did that, and their apprenticeship program was I think it was about 6 months.
Yeah.
So I went there, and during class, when I was in classes, and I had a teacher in school who had gone and worked for Vidal Sassoon's in San Francisco for several years, came back. So she was teaching us some cool stuff in school. And she said to me one day, you know what? You're going to go really, really far.
Oh, really?
And those words, right, got planted. And I was like, if she thinks that, that's pretty cool, you know?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and then we went and smoked a joint after school. I'm just kidding. She was really cool. She like partied with all the students but anyway, I don't know what happened to her.
Yeah. But, you know, it's interesting because I love that. I think that there's words of encouragement from whether you're in just beauty school or anywhere are so important to somebody. But the reason why I started laughing is because, and I've said this before, if somebody have heard it before, if you have, great. If not, then if it's your first time, you'll giggle. My life in beauty school as a start was not what you call the best. I always tell everybody in joking and in real life that I was in half of the class that made the top half possible. But Pat Hassel was, God rest her soul, was the beauty school instructor of the Marvell Beauty School in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And every time that I would get upset about something, and I had a girlfriend at the time, not the lovely lady who I'm married to now, but we would fight all the time. And I would come back always in a mood, and I would, do silly things like floating boats that I made out of end papers in the Barbicide and watch them sink down. Felt much like my life at the time. And Pat would come out. She always had me sitting right beside her office, and every time she would come out, I'd be just sitting there doing stupid stuff. And she'd say, "Baran, do something." And I'd just grab a towel and I'd start cleaning up, and on my report card. And at the end, she just said to me, "Chris, you're going to have a salon, and it's going to be the cleanest salon I have ever seen in my life. You'll have no customers, but you'll have the cleanest salon of anybody I know." So it's just talk about the differences in the way that when people talk to you, etc. So it's interesting how that got planted in your brain. So let's go from there. Like, what was the path that took you and got you? Were you in the salon for a good period of time? Did somebody discover you and put you on stage? What happened?
I was in the salon for, I was probably working there about 3 years. And this woman named June Stowe, who was a stylist there, who I'm still in touch with on social media.
Oh, awesome.
She ripped this thing out. It was like in Modern Salon magazine, and it was like, "Trevor Sorby wants you." And it was like one of those military kind of poster ad thing. Yep. And she ripped it up and put it in my mailbox in the break room. And she wrote on there, "Ruthie, you have to do this."
How long were you in the business by this time? I
was 22. Yeah.
Wow.
So I went to cosmetology school when I was 19.
So this is like 2.5, 3 years in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought, what? Me? And she was like, "Yes, you need to do this." So you had to have 4 years experience, and I had 3, but I counted school, so that I wasn't lying. So that was 4. You had to have teaching experience, and I had taught the apprentices after me how to rinse a perm, so that was teaching. And then you had to have strong technical skills, and I didn't even know what that meant. I had no idea what technical skills were.
But so you weren't lying if you didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I just said, well, I have a clientele, sort of. I must be doing something technical. So, and then you had to submit a portfolio of your work. So I had no pictures. So what I did was, and at the time I was really into Sebastian, and their shows and their stuff, and it was really cool. So I totally copied everything that I could think of that they did. It didn't look anything like it, but I took my cutest clients and did a photo shoot at the Chinese restaurant next door, and just did whatever I could and sent it in. And I also sent a picture of myself in. It was a black and white picture of me with sunglasses on. I was like trying to emulate Jean Bra, with her glamorous, but my hair was black and I had these really crazy sunglasses on and I was smoking a cigarette. And I sent that in. I put my regular headshot in, and then I put that one in at the end, so that when they got to the end, they'd be like, what the? And so then they chose so they got like over 300 applicants or something like that. And Trevor wanted to get 12 people for his artistic team.
Yep.
And so they brought me and I think about 20 others, maybe more, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Well, we brought ourselves there. We had to pay our own way and all that stuff and audition, right? So when I auditioned, I had never done a demo. I was like, and I didn't know the products because we didn't carry them in the salon. And what I did was I tried to cut a haircut for my demo I saw a picture of it this big on a VHS video box. And now today I would cut it with a razor, but I didn't know how to cut hair with a razor. So I just winged it. I just made shit up. And so when I was done, it was only a half an hour too. I was my first demo, and I'm trying to do a whole haircut and a blow dry in half an hour. Like I didn't even think of cutting half of it first or anything. So all I got was mousse, a couple of balls in there, and then they said time. So I was like, and there's my finished look, and it was just kind of crazy. So
I wanted to stop you there for a second because I want to go back because firstly, there's people out there that right now that may not know who Trevor is, but if you are from our era, Trevor, there's probably 4, maybe 5 hairdressers in the world that were considered the best hairdressers in the world. And Trevor was probably in the top 1 or 2. And I think it was always a race between him and Anthony Muscolo and Irvin Rusk and a few others. But Trevor was iconic. So, but and some people in America, because I won't say the work level was different, but it was just different level of work that was done in America than they were doing at that time. Did you know who Trevor was at the time? Were you aware of his reputation?
I was aware of his reputation through June, the one that put that in my mailbox.
Got it.
And there was, hair magazines with his work in it.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away. I was also blown away by Robert Labetta and the Sebastian crew,
Yes.
But this was, Trevor was in that house for me as far as what inspired me. And I looked at his work and went, how the hell did he do that? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so I had like mad respect for him that way, but I'd never met him. I'd never seen him on stage. I'd only seen his work in magazines. So
what was, okay. So now that you got a couple blobs of mousse in the hair, and you went ta-da. And so what happened from there?
Well, then you had to stand there awkwardly. Well, Trevor came up and ran his hands through the haircut, and he was playing with it, and he goes, I really like the front. So that was like a compliment, and the back wasn't his preference or whatever. But I thought, that's good. He likes the front, and it was like a long shag, Didn't know what the hell I was doing. So then he goes back, and they seemed like they're 100 miles away. It was a panel of people, someone from the corporate. Vivian McKinder was his artistic director, so she was sitting there. Trevor was sitting there, and I had to sit in my model left, and I'm sitting in the hydraulic chair of the stage, and they're all way, 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 way back there asking me questions, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't even remember it. And then as I was leaving the room, I know what it was. So then I had to have a one-on-one interview with Trevor. And he asked, and it was right around the time, right before Madonna came out with Vogue and all that stuff, when her hair was like platinum, like Marilyn Monroe. It was right before that.
Yeah.
And he, first of all, we smoked a cigarette. So I was like, can I have a cigarette? Can we just smoke? So we did, because I was a big time smoker. And then he said, what do you think the future of hair is? And I said, I think we're going to go back to setting hair and doing like, comb outs and things like that. which we did for, whatever time that was when Madonna, everyone
Right.
started bleaching their hair and setting it and, in hot rollers or just doing that kind of cool. That was the edgy people that were doing that.
Right.
So anyway, that was kind of cool that ended up happening. But, it was just a conversation. And so I as I was leaving, there were people after me auditioning. I stuck my head back in the room and I go, "Thanks so much," like during someone else's presentation. And I left and just didn't know. So then I'm in the salon, they had to, I don't remember, but it was like 2 weeks later and I got a FedEx and they had accepted me on the team. So I was shocked, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I had this really excited, like little flicker in my belly, like, what if this would be so cool. And then we had to go to training for it was 6 weeks of training, 3 weeks, and then 3 more weeks in Pittsburgh, where the American, where he started his product line were made there.
Yeah.
And we were in a room with no windows for 3 weeks with Vivian McKinder and no days off. And there was a lot of crying and there was on my part. And we had to just go through their fundamentals, their, the graduated bob, the firefly, all those
Shapes.
They both had Sassoon backgrounds. So we had to do that. And when I found out I was on the team, so I don't want to be a bummer, but this was a huge part of my career, is that I was 23 when I got on the team. My mom passed away after the tryout.
Oh, wow.
Before the training started. So she knew I got on the team, which was awesome. And then she passed away. And then I dove into my career.
Yeah.
I dove into my
Was
career.
Was it a bit of escapism?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I, if I hadn't had that, I don't know what I would have done. You know what I mean? And Trevor, I call him my hair dad, because he was like my leader, the person I looked to career-wise for guidance, and Vivian. And then, my dad was like my mom and my dad. And then there was one time when they finally met in person, later on, after I'd been with him for years, my dad and his wife came to a show, and it was one of those shows where they had like 2 women tangoing and like, slapping each other. And it was just like, "Oh, sorry, Dad." And his wife was like, "Oh, that was so loud," So they came to that show and I got them, they met, and it was so amazing because I was like, wow, both of my, hair dads to get my dads together. So, and then
what did real dad think of Trevor and so on? How did they get along?
My dad's really he's pretty open, and so he was like, "Oh, so nice to meet you. Thank you for helping my daughter," and, all that kind of stuff. But his wife was just like, "It was so loud," Anyway, whatever.
Didn't understand hair shows at all. That's the prerequisite for hair shows.
Yeah. And when I was at the training, Trevor said, because they only ended up picking 3 people. They were supposed to pick 12 and they picked 3 because those were the only people that he wanted on his team for whatever reason. And he told me the reason he picked me was because I had guts to get up there and do something I'd never done before in front of him and this panel of people. And he said he saw raw talent.
Oh, good.
And he even said, even when he would introduce me on stage later on, as his artistic director, he'd say, when I first met Ruth, she wasn't a good hairdresser. As a matter of fact, she wasn't a good hairdresser at all, and now she's my artistic director.
Yeah.
And that's how he would introduce me. And,
and how did you feel about that?
I don't know. I still don't know.
Here's Ruth. She sucked at one time, but now she's awesome.
Now she's good, but she was horrible.
Yeah.
So, and then later in my career, he'd say, he said it more than once, I can count on my hand the number of hairdressers that I respect.
Yeah.
And you're one of them.
Yeah.
And I was I still get choked up about
Yeah.
that because it's like, really? Are you
Yeah.
sure? You
Well,
know?
when you have one of the 1, 2, or 3 people in the world that are the best at what they do, and then giving you that compliment, that is one hell of a compliment. I must admit, I think a lot of people that are out there would crave and die for somebody to say of that caliber to say it to them.
I know.
And that's why I felt the same way, and I said so at the beginning. So, was there a tough part in there?
God, the whole thing was tough. I mean, I think the first 3 years, because I was on his team for 9 years,
Yeah.
became his artistic director at the end. But for the first 3 years, I was so green and so wanted to please them and show them that I could do hair. But I was still trying to learn it and teach it, which is so impossible. So I'd get up there and we'd have to do these tests for Trevor and demo. And I would end up, my glasses would fog up. I was like standing there behind my model, like hiding what I was doing. And just, it was just hard. It was really hard. And then I couldn't, excuse me, I just couldn't get the mix of things clicking. And then finally things started to click and people were like, learning or laughing, or, I started to connect with audiences.
Yeah.
And that helped. But it took me a couple of years to not cry when Trevor was like evaluating our work.
Right. Well, I want to go back to that because you said something. It took me X amount of time till you connected. What was that? Because you mentioned a couple things till somebody laughed. Mm-hmm. What was that? Was that like a switch? And what was it? I want to go back to that moment because I think there's so many people out there that get on to see what we do, and they don't understand that there's something that you've got to work through and get to a point to get to the other side. What was that for you?
Yeah, I think it was you're becoming one of the audience instead of talking at them.
Yeah.
Or even talking to them. You're showing them that you're one of them, not someone who's better than them or different than them. And I think the comfort level then with the audience is so relaxed and different, and they feel respected and they feel, I don't know, I can't explain it too much more than that, but it's a connection, especially through humor, because stuff happens that's just stupid and funny, and it happens to everybody. And I think for me, part of what I learned over the years is that things are going to happen when I'm teaching. It's like God's way of helping me out, because something stupid always happens that's funny, almost always.
And wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree on? Excuse me. Wouldn't you agree that it's those funny things that happen? And what I love about you as a teacher is you're an amazing storyteller, and I think it's those little touches of humanity and that humor that are sometimes just self-deprecating. The stupid things that we've done in our past, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, you know what? I do that all the time. And then they relate to you. And to me, that's the biggest part. I just wish that in our lifetime that, like for me, if I could have one thing that I would love people to, if I could go like this and get the rest of our industry to give that or take that away, I would be like to take away the fear. Is the fear that you're going to make a mistake, or fear that you're just going to say something stupid, or the fear that I want to go on stage or try something, but I just won't do it because I'm so afraid to be judged. Yeah. And I think you have this innate ability to just be Ruth on there. And while they see you as somebody that's elevated and really high, you don't. And I think there's that gap between where people see you and where you put yourself in their eyes that makes you so much more relatable.
It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Every one of us have it.
Yeah, it's like if they knew that I have no idea what I'm doing.
And I've seen you do it on stage where you say, I have no idea what I'm, it's not that you don't go, well, I have no idea what I'm doing, but look at how good I am. I've seen you do it where you tell, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. And people laugh because they think, oh yeah, you don't know guffaw. And sometimes we just don't have a freaking idea.
Yeah.
But that's the creative process, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Listen, I talked about if there was that on my side, if you had a wish that you could, everybody in our industry, if you could snap your fingers and help to cure or do something for our industry, what would that be? What would you want to do? What would that, if you had that one wish, I could say, here it is. Here's the wish. What would that wish be that you could help our industry with?
I wish that everyone was into education.
Oh.
I wish every hairdresser pursued learning more because you can never stop, just like nurses and doctors, they do continuing education because they have to stay up on what's happening. And, and depending on where you started and who your tribe was and who trained you, there might be a whole set of skills that can make your life a lot easier that you don't know about because you're just doing what you know. So I think it would be to have people feel that hunger and then want to satisfy it and keep going. I think that's what I would do. That's my answer today. You know?
Well, and because we're always thinking of good stuff that we wish would happen, right? But and what I loved about what you said, and I think there's a switch that if we could push that a bit further, that makes it easier for us as hairdressers, is nurses and doctors, they have to learn new things because they're all scientific and they're things that they have to do to save a life or to get better at saving lives.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm not saying that we don't save lives because I know we do. But the interesting part about our education is that we can learn foundations so that we can become more creative. And then the education is actually about enhancing our creativity. So we push ourselves and we can come up with new shit, as opposed to just having to learn scientific shit and then not having to, I've got to learn this because I have to, as opposed to, wow, look at how this changed and turns my crank every day. So I can learn new stuff to do on my clients and see their faces. And, I'm a little more selfish than you are. I just love the feeling I get when I can do something creative on somebody and then they look at it and they go, oh my God, this is amazing.
It's the best feeling ever.
Yeah. Who needs crack or anything like that? Because it's just really an uplifting shot of adrenaline. I think that's the one thing that I love that if we could give that to people so that they could get that shot rather than just doing the same experience over that they've had 1 year of experience 20 times.
Right.
It's amazing. Okay. Was there, no, I think we've already talked about that there was a turning point in your career, and that was that in your mailbox, that little thing with Trevor, and that shifted your life around. Was there ever an event that you went to that freaked you out?
Yeah, many. But one was, and this was, not late, but I had been doing hair for probably 15 years, maybe more. And I was not with Trevor anymore. I had gone to Redken and was there for 5 years. And then I left to do my own thing, still, kept my tethers to Redken and used Redken and all that stuff. But I was doing my own thing, and I started my own salon and an academy. And then I was traveling, doing shows. And so I got invited to do a show. I won't mention the show because it was so I got this like van full of people. So I had been at Redken where I had all this support, right? Now all of a sudden I'm taping my own boxes and schlepping stuff and driving a van down to the city that it was in, which was probably like a 6-hour drive. I threw my whole team from the salon in the van, all of our stuff, the stools for stage, everything. And it's time to find, there's a main stage area and then there's the floor, right?
Right.
And the main stage area sat about, it looked like there was like 500 chairs there. Like there was a lot of chairs. And so it's, walking over to go backstage, right? Right before the show, there's 2 people in the audience in the front row. And I think they were like just eating their lunch. You know what I mean? I don't think they were actually there to see the show. So then we're backstage, and Bradley, who used to be my right hand, he would go on stage with me a lot, but he was kind of like he was my right hand. So I'm standing there backstage. And I started crying. I go, I don't want to go out there. There's nobody out there. I can't do this. Oh my God. I feel stupid. Who am I going to talk to? So he's like, it's okay. No. Just go ahead. And he like pushed me out on the stage. And I remember like that was the hardest thing to get through. I was just like, how do I pretend that people are here and they're interested? I can't just talk to 2 people in case other people are walking in. I can't be like, so Sue and Nancy, what do you think of this section? So anyway, that was a very humbling experience for sure.
I think that and I'm giggling while you're saying it because I've been there. We've all had those shows. I remember being in a Toronto ABA, and they had all the booths set up, and the same thing. Like there was nobody in the chairs. I said, well, I'm not going out there till there's some people in the chairs. And I think I waited like 15 or 20 minutes, and then finally they said, get your ass on stage. Nobody's going to come into the room if the stage is empty.
Right.
So, because it's one of those ones where everybody was walking around, and so we
Shopping.
eventually did gather a few. But it was the same thing. You had to just go out there, and people had to see there was something going on to get back in the room. But those do freak you out, and I think that's the test, the real test of metal that we have as well. I want to just throw some rapid fire ones at you. Is that okay?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. I don't know. You might have hit this one already. Most difficult time in your life.
Gosh, the most difficult was probably when my mom died.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was just starting to really form who I was and figure it out. And that was just like the bottom dropping out, But like I said earlier, I think my career wouldn't be where it was today if I hadn't dove into it so much. Yeah. Probably to a detriment in a way because, I missed a lot of friends' weddings and family stuff and things like that, being on the road all the time. And, didn't have a family, kids, which it wasn't a choice, but it just kind of didn't happen. So, I think that was probably the hardest time.
Yeah. And I think that because I heard you say about you missed out a lot with friends and dates and when I mean dates, I mean like birthdays, anniversaries, parties, etc. But I think that's the price dating. Of success. Yeah. I think that sometimes when you choose that path to be successful at what you have to do, it does come at a price. So thanks for sharing.
And I think there's not that many people that are willing to pay that price. People are more into a balanced life now, which I think is good. And the world is so different now than it was then as far as.
Well, it's different now than it was 2 to 3 years ago. Yeah. Your event or show that you loved the most and why? And I realize there's picking 3. There's, it's not that you're picking out one or whether, just one, the one that comes to your brain right now.
Right now is the Hair Expo in Sydney, Australia. 1 year they brought me down, 2 years they brought me down as me, not with Redken or anything like that. And so Bradley and I went and we did main stage and we just let it rip. We put it all out there. And he imitated Cher on stage and did this whole, routine. And, it was just such a huge success and it was so much fun, and I just remember I have a lot of respect for Australian hairdressers and their talent. Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that they they liked us. They really liked
Yeah.
us, and
It's
it was
true.
fun. So
Yeah.
we got to do things we couldn't do here. Like we had models running around in underwear and, stuff like
That is true, and they love that. So,
yeah.
okay, and I'm just pretty broad scopes. Things that you hate the most,
In general,
just in general, in whatever.
mean people.
Oh,
I hate backstabbing.
yeah,
I can't gossip.
yeah.
That's what I hate. And people that are mean to animals.
Me too. Love it. Things you love the most.
Coffee.
I've seen that.
Yeah. My dog, Annie.
Aw.
My dad. He's like my favorite guy in the world.
Love it.
Yeah.
The creative process with you. What turns it on?
Pressure.
Mm.
A deadline.
In what way? A deadline.
Yeah, like someone says, you're doing a shoot on this day. Figure something out, Or like with NAHA, when you've been in that situation with me where they said we're doing a shoot in a month. What do you want to do? What's your idea? It's like I don't have an idea.
Yeah.
So then that pressure of it, because I'm kind of a procrastinator. So if I don't have a deadline, I'll just fart around, with ideas in my head. But to actually have to start trying things and testing things and seeing if it will work, that sparks my creativity. And then other people's work, getting inspired, by seeing what somebody thought of. It's like, what made you think of that? And I think, and Trevor used to always say that what the hardest part is not doing what I do, it's thinking of what I do.
Right.
It's thinking of a new idea and then figuring out how to do it is the fun part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's having that idea.
Yeah. Most people have no idea that anything that you do, about 85 or 90% of the time is in the research of how the hell to do it. If you're doing something different or you don't know how to do something that you've seen before, it takes a hell of a lot of time to do it. And that's patience.
Yeah.
And I love that. What stifles it the most for you? Stifles your creativity the most?
Pressure.
Yeah. What turns me on is the deadline. What stifles it is the damn pressure that it gets.
I think what stifles it is not having the time to tinker and work it out.
Yeah.
To figure that out, because when you're on a deadline, it takes the fun out of it. And I mean a different deadline, right?
Yeah.
So, so you need time, and time is something that so many of us don't have, right? That extra time so you got to make time for it and put it in your calendar, or else it's not going to happen. Like while you're, after dinner when you're exhausted, you have to make time for it.
Are you the kind of person that loves to get on your own with your creativity and come up with stuff, or do you like the banter that goes back and forth? I
like the banter.
Yeah.
I love having people that are also into figuring stuff out, or, I'm a collaborator for sure. I like to say, does this look like crap or is it cool? I can't tell anymore,
Yeah.
So, and I love doing that with you, when we're trying to figure something out, and you really can't have perspective sometimes if you've been looking at something for so long, you don't know.
Nothing better. That's what I love, because we're working on projects right now. And I love when I go, hey, Ruth, and I fully, I know you're the same, as you don't pull somebody aside to say, hey, just tell me you love it. It's just, does this look like a piece of crap, or is this okay? What do you tell me? Because you're going to look at it the first time. Also, I want to point out too, and this is one thing that I love about you, and I want people that are listening or watching to know this about you, and because this is an unbelievable thing and trait that you have. You have two words that I don't know if you use them. You used them already a couple times in our conversation, but there's two words that you use all the time that when you're trying to come up with, when people are collaborating, do they, I'm going to tell you what they are if you can't remember what they are.
I don't know.
You always say, what if? Because like I see when you do things, and we do this on the things right now where Ruth and I are leading going after big things right now with this huge project, and we're trying to come up with ideas, and we know something's not working. And I see your eyes just turn up and they go to the right because I can see you're accessing your imagination. And then you always say, well, what if? And then you come up with this stuff. And I go, where the hell did that come from? And you have that amazing ability. And I see that as a collaborator, but I also see it as when some people will get caught and just this idea is not working. I want to push it further and I want to push it further until we know it's not working at all. And it's just throw it away and I'm sick of it. But you have this innate ability to go, well, what if? And then to push it or tweak it or find out something that, would work instead of it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know I said those words. That's cool. You
do that all the time. I just so admire that because it just shows me that you're always thinking about, okay, well, if that won't work, what will? And it's about a problem. Mm-hmm. To me, that's problem solving. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm really very quickly turning into this, not into rapid fire, but here it goes. What do you hate most about our industry? Hate's a strong word, but I'll let you use it in this case.
I think I'm not a huge fan of I think there's some wonderful things that social media have done for our industry and for stylists and artists and things like that. But it's created the compare and despair thing, so much that I think it's harmful to teenagers and that kind of thing. But to hairdressers, I think everyone, looks at, including me, why don't I have more followers? How come it's like, it's just weird. And I don't think it's healthy.
Right.
But that's how the world is. That's how people measure your success now.
Yeah.
A lot of people anyway.
Different benchmarks.
Yeah.
A person you could wish you could meet.
David Bowie.
Oh, wow.
I always thought he was the sexiest man alive. And then he lived in Tribeca, where about 4 blocks from my salon.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I could just bump into him once, I'd probably faint. I wouldn't even be able to be starstruck. I would just faint. So,
he probably
and as an artist too, he just didn't give a shit about what anybody thought. He did weird stuff.
Well, that would be probably you the first chance of romance, because not knowing him, but knowing of him, he would have probably run up and, oh, what's the letter, etc. And then you'd open your eyes and there'd be this dreamy moment.
And then Iman would come and beat me up.
She'd say, oh, well, it's okay, you can have him. A language you wish you could speak?
French.
Ooh. Okay, here it is. You got a month off. Expenses aren't a problem. Where would you go and what would you do?
I would go to a remote island and maybe just bring in the Caribbean, somewhere tropical, and just check out. I'd invite a few people.
Love it. Just so business or no business?
No business.
No business. Okay, good.
Nope.
My wife would be very happy about that one. She's always saying no business. Okay. One thing you're terrified of. Like for me, it's spiders. I can deal with snakes, but I can't deal with spiders.
I don't really have anything. I can't think of anything right now.
Okay, cool. You can choose to use this. You can choose to answer this one or not. Favorite curse word?
I can't say it.
Okay.
But it begins with an F.
Yeah,
ends with a K.
Yeah, fondue. Yes.
No, I think I say shit more often.
Yeah.
So that might be my
your go-to.
Favorite.
Okay, favorite comfort food?
Macaroni and cheese.
Ooh, yes. Something in the industry that you've never done before, but you would still love to do.
I'd love to do Meryl Streep's hair.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I keep putting it out there because you never know.
Yeah, that's got to. Yeah, I'll give you.
She used to live around the corner from me.
Really? Meryl Streep and I are like this,
Oh, why didn't you tell me?
Well, because this is me. For those of you listening, I've got my two fingers crossed and I'm waving my thumb. I'm that far removed from Meryl Streep. Okay, good. Okay, here's another. I've got two more. A do-over. A do-over, something in your life that you could do over again. What is it? What would you do?
It's so funny. Whenever anybody asks that, I can't think of what I would do differently.
Yeah.
I think I would stop doubting myself so much, and worrying what people think of me, because that has paralyzed me sometimes.
Yeah. I get it. Okay. Tomorrow, no hair. You've been just told you can't do hair anymore. What would you do?
Dog grooming?
Dog grooming. I love it.
No, I don't want to do dog grooming. Why did I say that? That sounds horrible.
I know you love dogs.
I love dogs, but I don't want to groom them.
But what profession, what would you do?
Could I be an artist?
You can do anything you want. That's what
I would do.
Yeah,
I would be a painter.
A painter.
Yeah.
Love it.
I paint now just for fun.
Yeah.
And I do big, huge flowers and fruits and vegetables and
I love
and
it.
I taught myself. It's just for
All
fun.
self-taught. Nice. Okay. One last question. Just again, as an industry overall, there's people watching or listening. What if you could get them to stop doing something or to let go of something? What would that be?
Self-judgment, like judging yourself. Yeah. Stop doubting yourself. Just do it.
Love it.
That's the only difference between people that succeed and people that don't, is the people that do just try.
Yeah. And sometimes even if you're judging yourself, just to let it go and just keep going at it. You're never going to do it if you don't try,
Yeah.
Only people that only succeed are the ones that try.
Yep.
Ruth, I know that we're going to be getting together and jamming in just probably a few days, it seems like. But Ruth, I, as I said at the very beginning, I have the utmost respect for you. You are one of the most creative people I know, one of the better friends that I have, and one of the people that I know I can bounce off creatively. I hope that the rest of the world sees you as the incredible human being and humorous person that I see. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show and being a part of Headcases. So I will see you in a few days, but This was an absolute joy.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it too, and thanks for having me on Headcases.